Yo, coach.
What's up, man?
How are you?
Good, brother. Can't complain. Life is like that. What's up?
How's it going over there, man?
It's good. I mean, it's okay, man. Like it's just different. We've been 74 days now where, you're total lockdown. You can't really go anywhere or do anything. I'm pretty lucky. I mean, we're pretty lucky. We're in like a gated community that you've got to go through like 5 gates to get in here, right? So
Nice.
there's no risk of that, and there's none of the virus anywhere around us.
Great.
It's just when it somewhat goes back to normal, right? Like that's the thing. Because the league I'm in is 12 months of the year, so you got 3 4-month conferences that kind of just keep right on rolling. So we've been off now for 4 months, so that's never happened before. We're hoping that by other soccer leagues starting in other countries, hopefully the NBA starts, hopefully other leagues start, and then this government here will follow suit, right? So that's kind of what we're hoping for. But until then, so that's kind of it, man. That's kind of the backdrop. I mean, there's obviously no training going on. No one's really doing anything. I've just been looking at a million different videos and clinics and trying to talk to coaches everywhere else to see what the hell they're doing and what they're trying to change up for. That's kind of it, man.
How old are your kids now, Mark?
15, 13, and 11.
Because I'm coaching at St. Thomas's this year. I'm back in high school hoops.
Yeah.
And man, the boys look up to your family so much. They talk about you all the time. So I think some of your sons are good mates in my group. We've got Hugo, Mr. Delatour. Man, I don't.
You've got the old crew that was at my house constantly. Let's see, you got Louis, Harvey.
Yep.
Well, you got some great kids, man. Great kids. I still try and stay in touch, but it's hard, man. Once you're gone, right? It's like.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of hoops Louis Delatour did over in the Philippines, but man, he came back and he's a bucket now, man. He's gonna drop 30 or 40 on some teams this year, I think.
He's good. Like he came over, he played every day. He played with all the pro guys, so he had like 6 weeks of 2 practices a day against pros, and I just let him practice. But I did the same for Hugo, and man, Hugo, I love him, but man, like I let him run in the preseason, right? So he's playing against guys that are making $300,000 or $400,000 US a year, okay, right?
Wow.
So they're making some serious money, and they're like national team players in the G-list over here, right? So I explained all this to Hugo before it, right? So he comes the first day, hits a couple of shots, right? So I'm on the way home in the car, and I can tell he's feeling really good. I'm like, hey, that's awesome, you hit shots today, but remember tomorrow when you come back, man, just low key, because he looked at a couple of people when he was open, they didn't pass him the ball and they shot.
Right.
Hey, look, that's the captain of our team. He's probably going to do that to you. You're the 15-year-old here, right? Like, just be low-key, because I could tell he doesn't have any idea, right? So fast forward 2 days, he hits a few shots. They don't pass him the ball at the end of it, and he comes over to me. He's like, what's wrong with these guys? Right, and they're all just laughing at him, man. They're all like, "What's New Zealanders?" I'm looking at you, going like, "You."
Yeah, I love the guy. He's I like my group because they're a young group, and I've got 2 year teams, Louis, Gordon, and Hugo, I'm going to be playing them a lot. So I'm chucking them straight into the deep end, and it's I like that I get to coach them for that long. The last time I had a guard that was starting at year 10 was Show Nisbet, I think. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a few years with those lads. So yeah, they offered for me to come in and set up, go all out with the program in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Great group of kids.
You got a nice crew though.
For sure, man. Yeah, for sure. So but everywhere I go at the moment, it's just Mark stories all day. It's mainly about like you challenging them. So if it's them playing against somebody older or better. But everyone's got the impact that you had on this generation's like huge. So I just wanted to basically just ask you some general basketball questions. It's more like a conversation.
Yep, no problem, man. Whatever you need. Well, look, man, in a lot of it was because my kids are the same age as a lot of these kids.
Yeah.
But I did it in Dunedin when my kids were 3, 4, and 6, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like they were playing then. It's just something that I always like to do, right?
Mm.
Like, I always felt like I gave my best to the younger guys because you see more of yourself in them when you were pure, right? Like, as they get older, it's like, I don't even like that guy anymore, right? Like, but when they're
Yeah.
young, you see what they could be.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm stuck. That's why I've only worked with high school level, and I've got no interest in doing prems or 23s or any of that stuff because, you know, when I was in high school, if I didn't have basketball, man, I would have gone put all my time and energy into bad things. So I just try and create that real positive culture. That high school group's where it's at for me. I love high school basketball.
Man, that's what's up. Trust me. It's the most pure freaking thing. Unfortunately, if you're trying to be a coach, that doesn't really get you paid. Right?
True story. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Hey man, look, I found something today. I'm at home sorting stuff out, and I was going to mention to you that your old man was my coach for a bit. The Nugs. This is how poor an NBL player I was, mate. So the whole squad got their hoodie, right? We're about to play our first game of the season. We get their hoodies. Everybody gets hooked up with a hoodie. There's one left over. I'm clearly a 2XL man. This is a size L, but it fits like a medium. They were like, sorry, Rook. And I get hooked up with it. So I actually couldn't even wear it, man. Like, how bad's that?
Sounds about right.
At the end of the bench, man. At the end of the bench. But yeah, that's one thing I was gonna. I don't know if you knew that, but your dad was assistant coach, and man, he was just awesome for me because the coach there wasn't talking to me. He didn't explain anything to me, but your dad actually took me through to Logan Park, and we did these one. Man, I tell people this story all the time, but Stu Carruthers, Cal Brooks, Pete Burgess, and all these development guys, he would get us to come through. And man, we used to do one-on-one full court 1st to 7. We used to do all these like things I'd never seen before. And after my first training with your dad, I was throwing up outside. I wasn't feeling too flash. And I think he felt sorry for me. So we walked down to that dairy and he hooked me up with a can of Coke and a pie. And I was like, that's my guy.
Sounds about right.
So I think this is one of the questions one of the boys in our group chat had was, how do you go from Logan Park to Las Vegas?
Well, I guess the easiest way to answer it is that I never really thought about it. You know, I just tried to take it one day at a time. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's, you know, it's just the truth. You know, like when I was coming through, no one had even been to college yet. Like Stan Hill had been in the 70s, early 80s.
Wow.
Sean Marks kind of was 1 year ahead of me, but like he was 7 foot, so everyone kind of knew he was going to go to college. And then really no one else had been, especially to Division I. So that wasn't something I really dreamed about doing, to be honest with you. You know, I kind of grew up dreaming of playing for the Nuggets, and then hopefully one day playing for the Tall Blacks. It wasn't even the Tall Blacks then; it was just New Zealand national team. So I kind of had a pathway in my head that, you know, like every kid when you're 11, 12, and 13 thinks you're going to play in the NBA. That's just a given, right?
Yeah.
It's only as you get older that reality starts to set in, and you're like, dude, how good are the people that are actually making it, and how hard do they have to work? So
Yeah.
I just never got too far ahead of myself, you know. Like I just said to myself, okay, every day, how much can I do? How much can I train? Really, no one around me trained. I didn't really have a whole lot of people that were training like I was training. Obviously, I had an advantage because my father was the coach, but you know, in the summer months, he coached cricket, and he was actually, you know, Otago, you know, men's coach, under 20 cricket coach, and like I played cricket, but from the time I was 11 or 12, I just played basketball. So
Right.
I kind of just trained by myself and worked on stuff. Obviously, he helped me and showed me stuff, but you know, a big part of this basketball thing being really good is just you. It's just your own motivation. Like, how motivated are you to give this a really good go?
Yeah.
And not be relying on everyone else to push you and to motivate you and to tell you what you're doing right or wrong. It's just, man, do you love doing it? Because it's just a whole lot of work. And when other people are going out and doing stuff and partying and doing that, you're prioritizing your workouts and making sure that you're doing well in school. And because these are all things that, you know, if you want to do really well at this game, you've got to have that in order. Now, when I was about 16 and I was playing for the Nuggets, that's when I started getting offers to go to college, but they weren't very good schools. Schoolwork wasn't really difficult for me, so I could always get by, but it was at that point that I actually started trying, because I was like, damn, I'm going to actually have to have grades if I want to go ahead and do that. UNLV had always been my favorite school from the time that I was 9 years old, 10 years old, because when I was 10, UNLV came out to New Zealand and actually played our national team in Christchurch, Wellington and Auckland.
Oh, wow.
And I saw those two of those games. My dad took me to the game in Christchurch and the game in Wellington. So I kind of saw that team. And they were the first college team I saw up close. So, you know, from that point on, I always followed UNLV. I was always aware of what's going on. There's no internet back then. So you kind of saw whoever was playing in the NCAA tournament. And back in that era, when I was growing up, UNLV were always in the NCAA tournament and doing well. So my dad got all those games from coaches in the States. So I just kept trying to follow that, you know, and then fast forward to my first year out of school. I'm playing on the national team now, and we went on these tours. We would play like 19 games in 23 days in America, and we'd play all the Division I universities on the West Coast. So we actually played UNLV, and it was after one of those games that they said, look, we'd love for you to come.
Wow.
Right. So I didn't really say anything then. I came back to New Zealand, and it was, I want to say it was November. And then I stayed there for 2 months back home in Dunedin. And then I actually moved to Australia and played second division over there for 6 months before I was to make a decision to go to college. And it was when I was in Australia that the UNLV coach came out 2 or 3 times and officially started recruiting me. And then I said I'd go to UNLV, and then I went over there. I think it was in July before we started in September. So look, it just falls into place. If you've done the work and you're playing well enough, and you get the exposure that you create for yourself, no one else creates that for you. You know, you can get to wherever you want to get to. Now, if I'd wanted to go to another school, I'm sure that would have happened. It's just whatever your focus is and whatever you want to make happen in your life, you can do it. It's just, man, it's day to day, and it's not taking days off.
It's great timing to hear that too, because I think like it was interesting watching teenagers through the lockdown, because they were quite reliant on coaches to provide motivational programs and things like that. But like you said, it really comes down to you and their work ethic. That's interesting to hear that, man. Like, yeah, I was so, because the fact that I kept on throwing at people when you first came to Canterbury, and people would talk about you and they'd mention, you know, one of your career highlights or like what they'd heard about you. My stat that I constantly pulled out was, you know, that he led the NCAA in assists one year. Like that was, I was on that campaign to educate people on that stat, because that's insane. But
yes, it's not really a question so much as you're kind of putting me on it. Like basketball's not an impossible game to get good at. It's not. It's the understanding of the game that becomes really, really difficult to get good at. And it's like anything. It's like if you want to be a shooter, you got to shoot millions of shots, right? Like if you want to be a great passer, you've got to have seen what's going to happen on the court a million times. It's no different than anything else. So when people would be like, how do you get 10 assists a game? It's like, well, I knew that Joe was going to cut there because I've played with him so many times that I know he's open before he's open, right? So that's how you become a good passer. No different than, you know, if you were to ask Kirk Penny, how do you shoot through hands all the time when they're on you or not? He's like, because I can see the basket. And if I can see the basket, that thing's going to go in. You know what I mean? It's like you figure out what your talent is in this game, and then you just, you know, refine it. And of course you work on your weaknesses, but man, if you want to be good at basketball, work out what you're good at and do that. And then around that, try and make the other players on your team better and more confident and tougher and all of those things. And then try and do the opposite to the team you're playing against, right? Like, You don't have to be out there trying to fight people, but you've definitely got to be out there and letting the other people know on both teams that you're there and you're strong and that you count. Because in this game, that means a whole lot.
I'm just curious, man. Like, at what state was it your goal? Like, heading into when you started playing Division I basketball, was it your goal to, lead your conference or lead the country in assists, or is it something you kind of?
No, not at all, man. Like first practice I'm there. First off, there's 18 kids there. You're all on the same team, doing one-on-one drills all the first day, breakdown drills 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and I'm the worst player. I don't have any illusions about myself at that point. There was seniors, juniors, sophomores. There was only one other freshman and me that came in. So like we were like, both of us were a little bit like, wow, like, and our team wasn't even that good last year. Right. So like there's kind of that realization of how far you've got to go. Like it's a level, you do well in New Zealand and you separate yourself from the pack, and then you go there and then you start low again. So how do you handle that knockback and the realizing that you've just got to keep putting your head down and going to work? So like really my whole first year was, man, I just didn't want to get yelled at by the coaches, man. I didn't want to get yelled at by the other players. Like I didn't want to get, like it was like trying to speed up because the other players need you. The coaches need you, right? So, you got to start working out what's going on. And the game was just so fast. Like everything was happening so quick. Like you think you've got a lane to the hoop, but you don't. Like I think you're open, but then all of a sudden the guy denies the pass. Like there was just an adaptation of the speed of the game, And there's 2 months of practice you have before you even start playing practice games. So, there's no hiding there. And in practices, they don't call fouls. And I wasn't very strong when I first went to UNLV. And a lot of the people I was playing against were really strong. So like there was all these adjustments to go through. So my first year was just like that. By the end of the year, though, like I felt like I was starting to work it out. My sophomore year, halfway through my sophomore year, I think I figured it out. The game slowed down and I started feeling like I was more comfortable and deserved to be playing. Up until then, I think I thought the coach saw more in me than I saw in me, right? And then kind of halfway through my sophomore year, I started to feel comfortable out there. My junior year, I got hurt, rolled my ankle really badly, and kind of didn't really ever get right the whole year.
Right.
And then coming into the senior year, I'd just been healthy. From the last day of practice, I didn't take any days off. We played our last game, didn't take any days off all the way through the summer, all the way through the next season, no issues, not hurt, anything. So, like I felt like I could have done that my junior year also. Just didn't really have the luck. And then my senior year, just no injuries, not hurt. And by that point, you're older, you're stronger, you're 21 years old now, you feel more comfortable, the crowds don't affect you, being on TV doesn't affect you. You just feel comfortable, so that's kind of the transition I went through at least. And I just had so many super talented players I played with that, it just took away all the fear of playing, not that there's a fear there like you're going to get hurt, but there's just a fear there that this guy's so much better than you that he can potentially embarrass you. Right. So, that was taken away from me early, I would say. First 2 or 3 months of practice, it was like, look, I've just got to try my hardest and not worry about it. Because if I worry about that, I'm already in trouble.
Yeah. Did you get asked about the people, when you came to Christchurch, did people ask you much about these things? Or is it something people don't bother you with? Or
look, man, people over there don't really, people in New Zealand don't really ask any basketball related questions of me, right? Most of the adults, for the most part, if you weren't a parent of a kid that I was working with, no one's coming up and talking to me. Now, maybe that's just because of how I was as a player, confrontational or whatever, but man, I would have talked to everyone. No one really asked about my career period, what it was like playing in Europe, what college was like, why I want to get into coaching. Really, no one really asked any of that. I think for the most part, in New Zealand, it's just easier to be like, that guy's different, that guy's up himself, or that guy's rather than actually trying to work out how people were able to do what they did. So they just try and marginalize what you did, maybe, right? So
yeah, so true, man. I just find it crazy that people could have. I was educating people on like me and you barely got to spend any time. And by the way, I really regret that. Well, not regret it because I was too busy at the time, but man, I wished I could have got to watch you coach more and spend time at your trainings and just like while you were here, actually. I think maybe I assumed that you were going to be here for a bit longer or whatever, but when you first came through and I had an opportunity to do, those morning sessions for you guys or whatever, it would have been great to have got involved, man, because I would have loved to have watched you, coach and do your thing. Yes, this one.
Yeah, like life is like that though, man. Like you just don't know. Like you got dragged another another direction, man. You gotta make a living, right? So
yeah, true.
So that's why timing is everything, man. Like you just don't realize it at the time that nothing's forever, and there's always a shelf life on everything. Like I'm not going to be here in the Philippines forever. I've been here 2 years already.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Time is ticking. Right. Time is ticking. So, it's how it goes, man.
Man, that's going real quick, man. That's. I went to one coaching clinic, and you were there. I don't know if you remember this one, and you came in, and they had done all this talking about it was when they got a coach from another team to come in, and I think they were running through scenarios, and they'd say how they would do. I can't remember who the Rams were playing, but they would say how they would approach one, defensive strategy or whatever, and then you had to say how you would combat that or something like that. I don't know if you remember this.
I think so. I think I was playing for Otago then, and I did the clinic in the morning of our game against Canterbury.
I think that could be the one. And I just remember it was so funny. People were trying to. You came in after people had been talking for a wee while as well, and they had set it up. They put so much time and effort into coming up with a strategy, and you came in and just said what you would do, and just shut it down. Oh, I'm doing a really bad job explaining that, but I was like, man, I need to listen to this dude talk more hoops, man. Like,
I kind of set him up too because they asked me what we wanted to talk on, and and then I said, well, what do you guys want to talk on? And they said, well, certain coverages on a screen and roll. I said, okay, great.
Right.
Well, then, how would you like to? What would you like to learn out of it? And they said, well, we believe that you cover things like this, this, and this. And this is how we do it with the Rams. And this is how we do it in rep programs here. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Well, what I'll do is I'll come in and tell you the counters to all that.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. So I remember that. And I can remember when, and just so you know, every screen and roll coverage works. Every zone works. Every defense works. It's purely, can you get the players buy-in to do that? And then what is your personnel capable of guarding easier, right? To try and play to your strengths. So there's really no right or wrong way. But however, you've got to, as a coach, have numerous ways that you could guard something, or your players kind of lose confidence in you. They kind of, you've got to have answers for them, and you've got to have ways that they can see their way through problems that are presented to them, either in practice or the game, or when the heat is on, they're just not going to listen. So, I remember as a player so many times, looking over at the sideline, I can't see behind me what's going on, thinking to the head coach, what is going on behind me?
Yeah.
Right? You've got to, we've got to change something up or do something, and there'd be nothing, so as a team, you're trying to collectively fix what's going on. And I can remember at the end of the game, man, we got out-coached that game, man. That's purely the reason we lost. So, when I was transitioning to coaching, I was like, man, I don't ever want to be in that situation where the people are looking at me like that. I want to always have options for them because, man, I remember how much that used to piss me off.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of you transitioning into coaching, I loved it when you were a player coach in the NBL. Was it enjoyable or was it difficult as hell?
I didn't really like it, man. I did it because, well, look, there was no one else to do it. I mean, Alf kind of pulled out.
Right.
And I was 37, so it was already like, man, I'm probably going to play another year or so anyhow. So, and my plan was, man, I'm going to get enough good players down here whereby I only have to play a little bit, right? So, it started off with the right intentions. No one was hurt first game of the year. We go down to Southland. I don't even play. I'm dressed out to play. I don't play. And we beat Southland, who won the championship the year before by 20, right? So this thing is easy, right? I've got this thing worked out. We've got a good team. So we come back, we have a run through the next night in practice. Marcus Whippy tears his Achilles, and the guy that was starting at the point strains his calf. So he's out for like 6 weeks, and Whippy's out for the season. So that's kind of that kind of changed the whole mind. Then we're going from being relatively deep to now all of a sudden, Whippy's a big hole to fill, right? Especially before he hurt himself, because he was so much more athletic and mobile. And the guy, Michael Lapeo, was a really, really talented young guy that really played well defensively. So we kind of had everything covered. And then I had to come back and play, and that kind of made it difficult, man. I just don't think you can do the job justice by being a player coach. Like, I don't think it's an issue in practice if you do that. I just think it becomes an issue in the games because, you just don't see enough of what's going on behind you. Like, I think you could be a center and be a player coach because you kind of see the whole court, what's happening. But, man, when you're playing defense on the ball, how do you know who's doing right and wrong behind you? Who's the breakdown guy? Right. So there's so many things. I'd watch the film after the game and be like, man, if I didn't have to play, we might have won that. You start feeling like that. So I'd kind of transitioned, and I was already focusing and coaching young kids every day and enjoying coaching more than I was playing at that point. I mean, physically I was fine, but mentally, man, I was ready to let that thing go.
And so when you came here, I remember how many minutes you used to play for Otago because you've just explained. But I remember thinking, if I were you, so you're a better man than me. If I were you and I could still hoop, and I was coaching an NBL team, if I got frustrated with my team, I'd sprint back to the locker room, chuck on some kicks, sub myself in. That's me. You're a better man than me.
I don't think it's about being a better man, because trust me, I used to think about it all the time, right? Like it's just hard because I was too close to playing, right? Like my time at the Rams was hard, man. It was really hard for the players too, because, man, I 100% felt like I could hoop better than all of them. That's not the issue, right? Like all I felt was, damn, like they just don't really want it bad enough, right? Like, man, they're not committed enough, or and then you're like, if I'm going to go down, I want to go down at least playing then, right? Like, so I was still way too close to it, man. So I went through those years of like, look, I've just got to take this medicine and work out how to do my job better. And then all my equity was as a player, right? So I was able to gain credibility with the players like that. But the more you go through it and the further you get from playing and the less you join in and actually play with them, the more you gain respect and credibility as a coach.
Yeah, it must have been so hard, because it's not like the year prior you were playing a couple of minutes here and there, or were a fringe player. You were like playing heavy minutes and getting it done at that level. So just that fresh off playing.
Yeah,
that's an advantage too, though, because you can obviously you would have been able to see things way clear. On that level, you would have understood things that maybe somebody that hadn't played that level before, or actually, no, I won't. I'll backtrack on that, because I get in trouble for saying that. I've got a mini pet peeve of because in Christchurch we've got quite a few of these up and coming coaches. And I'm not saying you had to have hooped to be a good coach. I'm not saying that. You got Pete Van Hassel and people like that, for example. But some of them, there's no proof in that pudding. They're kind of like acting like they know what's going on, but they don't. So that's my pet peeve in basketball.
Man, look, man, around the world, there's no requirement. Like, you can be a great coach at having been a good player or not played or played a little. Like, there's no requirement for it. But it's almost going the other way now. Whereas if you're a good player, man, you played, that doesn't help you at all.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're still trying to get these people to play ball. Right. Like, so the fact that we actually played it and loved it, man, that means something. Right. Like, so if the people weren't able to play it or weren't able to play to any level, or played it or achieved, or a great player, weren't a great player, the fact that you played it gives you an insight that the people that didn't play it just don't have. So, I'm not saying that it's a requirement. It helps, man. It definitely helps. And it definitely helps your players to know that and that you went through it. That definitely helps.
Like you said, that word buy-in, for them, if they know that I find that to be a big advantage. All right, here's one of the questions from one of the kids, man. if you had a couple spare hours up your sleeve, and you're allowed to watch any hoops, you know, that we have available, what is it that you'd spend your time? What kind of hoops would you spend your time watching right now?
Right now,
Mm.
or just whenever.
Just whenever. So obviously you don't have your coach hat on. You're not looking at teams that you're going to play or anything like that. Just purely out of teams that you enjoy to watch hoop. What would you watch?
Well, I've been watching a whole lot of early 1990s NCAA lately.
Nice.
I don't know why. I think just because I love the Fab Five in there.
Yeah.
Right. I went back and watched a whole lot of those games just because, you see Jalen Rose on ESPN and that, and you forget what a great player he was. And look, I watch a lot of European stuff, but like old European stuff, like when Sabonis was playing or Petrovic was playing or Nikos Galis from Greece was playing. Like I just like older stuff, man, because you forget how good the players back then were.
Yeah. That's part of what I'm doing, man, is I've had Phil Burns on here. I've had we had Chris Duhon. I chatted to him a couple of days ago. Yeah. And I got Keith Meir in the works, and a lot of these people. And part of what I'm trying to do is document people that are important in the basketball community, because you can see how easy it is for Christchurch people to forget, or like just people to not understand. I took 2 years off coaching high school basketball, man, and I came back and people didn't know what Burnside, like the kids didn't know Burnside had any program. And I was just like, man, so that's why I'm doing all-star games. That's why I'm interviewing important people in the hoops community. I want to like document that kind of stuff, because I just want to raise that awareness of, people, because people kind of focus on who's next and all that kind of thing. But I reckon so that's my angle, man. That's what I'm doing with College Park Hoops. So I'm trying to put these interviews together, put together like a good hoops conversation, and have something that you're proud of, and I can just document it so it's there. Do you know what I mean?
I like it.
So man, and for me, I'm such an antisocial person because I don't, go out and do all that kind of stuff these days. It's great to just get to talk to good basketball people, man. So yeah, I take up way too much time for people just talking trash. So you just sub me out when you need to. I'm glad you're into that kind of stuff, because I used to follow the NCAA around that same time pretty heavy. I mean, watching some of those games. It's good basketball, man. And just like, man, how good is Dickie V commentating?
Man, crazy.
Man.
And he's still commentating. And it's like 40 years later,
man, I tell you what, I'd love to do that. If you had any rare footage of you, let me know. Chuck that in your think tank, and you might stumble across something and send it through. We've got a big group.
The stuff if you put in UNLV Mark Dickel on YouTube, there's like the last 5 minutes of our conference championship my sophomore year. Put UNLV basketball 1988 in YouTube, and it's like a 5 minutes. The last, I want to say, 3 minutes of our conference championship my sophomore year.
Nice. I will. Yeah, we're getting some cool people come through. So I appreciate you giving me some time. Do you have any more time to answer a couple more questions? Or?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. 10 minutes will be all good, and then I got to try and help the freaking kids to do something.
Thanks, man.
I've been on the phone for the last 5 hours. You know how this goes.
yeah, I do. Okay, here we go. I got 2 more.
All right.
So my favorite one, because like I've got, as you probably know, like I'll just tell people what it is. So I love asking people this question, but what are some of your biggest pet peeves in basketball?
How long you got? What answer do I give? All right, I guess what it is just not seeing people improve the way that they're capable of improving. Of people being more worried about the credit they get than actually doing the work.
Right.
That goes for players and coaches. and a big part of that in New Zealand is just not celebrating people when they're really, really good.
Yep.
Right. Like I'm in a country now that loves basketball and it's their first sport. Right. It's their rugby, their cricket, their netball, all rolled into one. Right. So, over here, the players are celebrated, the coaches are celebrated, and it's just not the level of hate that you feel in other places. Right. So
Right.
that's been refreshing, really refreshing. And it just means over here that there's no roadblocks for the players to improve. Like a big peeve I had in New Zealand basketball was in the representative programs. There was no continuity in all of the areas, right? There was no cohesiveness between Otago, Canterbury, Southland, Nelson.
Right.
There was no collaboration and ideas and people really trying to work on the same things. And, so then it turns into kids, if you're from another area, they want to come to an area where it's like that. Right. So what I really wanted to try and help everyone do there was make it like that everywhere. Right. Yeah. And how do you find that and work on that and do that? So look, I guess my biggest peeve, if I was to really collate my thoughts and think about it, is people just being afraid to do a lot of work, man. People don't want to do the work and they want to get credit for stuff that's not them.
Yeah.
Not one of the kids that I was fortunate enough to coach got better because of me. They got better because they did the work and they bought into the program and they really worked hard. Right. Now, I helped or pushed them in that direction, but it wasn't because of me. It was because they fell in love for basketball and we created an environment that made them want to play basketball and have fun and enjoy it, right? Like that's how you get better. You don't get better because, people are standing on the sideline pushing you. You get better because, man, you want to do the work, right? So, what you're saying about the crew you have at St. Thomas now, man, a lot of them are my kids that like literally, man, they already have the bug for ball. They love it, right? So your job's going to be a lot easier than what other people's job is going to be, right? So the key is to get them young enough whereby they get that bug. And then as they get older, man, as long as there's a positive environment around them, man, they're going to be good players.
Yeah, no, I love that. We have to acknowledge a certain individual. He is responsible for getting me to link up with yourself. He's a young chap by the name of Hugo. So I just wanted to shout him out and acknowledge him, and get your thoughts on young Hugo.
Well, look, man, I like Hugo. So privately, I roast Hugo, right? Every chance I get. But publicly, I won't do that because, I like him too much, right? But no, man, you got a great crew of kids there. Obviously Louis, Harvey, Louis De La Tour. I mean, in particular, those guys, I had a lot to do with them. Jake is there, right?
Jake Banks, the captain. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's got bigger and he's better. His dad's awesome, Strawn. Like, I mean, a lot of those kids, man, I had 2-3 afternoons a week from the time they were 11 and 12. So, man, you got a good crew. Not just Hugo, because Hugo is annoying as hell. Right?
Yeah.
Right, we know that. But in a good way, man, he's got a chance to be really good. All those kids do, man. So, look, I hope the best for you guys, man. If there's anything I can do for help from here, just let me know. Eventually, when the world goes somewhat back to normal, I can get back there and bring the fam and hang out, right?
Perfect, man. Yeah. Hey, these kids talk about you all the time. You're their basketball god. So the impact that you've had on, now that I've come back to the basketball community, like the high school level, and hear the way the kids talk about you. Totahi, he's got stories about, I think you put him up against Joe Cook Green, and man, he'll just tell me stories about, getting challenged, but like it's had a huge impact on them. That's one thing I've picked up about you, and a story that one of these younger guys will tell me. It's always about you put them in a situation where they get challenged, and it has an impact on them. Like maybe they don't appreciate it at the time because they're probably not appreciating having to guard Joe Cook Green or somebody like that. But it plants that seed of being challenged and sort of responding to that. That's the one thing I've noticed when people tell me a Mark Dickel story.
Well, you've got a good way about you, man, and the kids like you. So that's a huge thing. Like, it's not a popularity contest, life, but it does help if the people like you. But you've also got to challenge them in a fashion that makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Because without feeling uncomfortable, you just don't grow. So, you know, it's that mix all the time between, man, and, you know, like, hey, yep, we're playing around here, but when it's time to hoop, you've got to hoop, right? Because that's what you're trying to teach them. There's a time to play and there's a time to work, right? So,
Yeah.
no, man, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time in New Zealand, man. It went way too quick. It's almost been 10 years since I was there, right? When I first went back. So it's like, man, that's how quick it goes. So, man, I know I'm getting older. My kids are getting older, right? But you never stop being a New Zealander. That's the first thing I will tell you. That never goes away.
Man, are they mini-me's? Your kids, they hoop the same way you hoop?
Man, like they're all different, man. They're all different. Like they can all play. They're all capable. You know, it's just going to be like, you know, this little 3-4 months has been difficult on everyone because you just can't get towards hoop, right? So this has kind of put a spanner in it. But they're all working out here at home and staying in shape and trying to do that. So, look, they'll get their chance, man. If they're prepared to put the work in, they have enough talent to do well. It's just going to be whether that's what they want to do. You know, my job as a parent is no different than a coach, man. I just got to, if they want to do it, cool. I'm not going to force them to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be on them.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right, brother.
Hey,
let me know if you need anything, all right?
Yeah, will do. Hey, good to see you, man.
You too, brother. Stay safe, all right?
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Peace.